Good evening from Buckingham Palace, where we have received the news within the last hour that King Charles has been diagnosed with cancer and will be stepping back from public-facing duties during his treatment. In a statement, the palace said, during the King's recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement, a separate issue of concern was noted. Subsequent diagnostic tests have identified a form of cancer. His Majesty has today commenced a schedule of regular treatments, during which time he has been advised by doctors to postpone public-facing duties. Throughout this period, His Majesty will continue to undertake state business and official paperwork as usual. The King is grateful to his medical team for their swift intervention, which was made possible thanks to his recent hospital procedure. He remains wholly positive about his treatment and looks forward to returning to full public duty as soon as possible. His Majesty has chosen to share his diagnosis to prevent speculation and in the hope it may assist public understanding for all those around the world who are affected by cancer. The palace has not specified what sort of cancer the King is being treated for, but said that it was discovered during his treatment for a benign prostate enlargement. The King, who returned from Sandringham to London today to start his treatment, is reported to be looking forward to returning to full public duty as soon as possible. When he was Prince of Wales, the King was a patron of a number of cancer-related charities, and encouraged by the positive effect on public health awareness of his treatment for an enlarged prostate, the King has chosen to make his diagnosis public in the hope it would help public understanding for everyone affected by cancer. He has apologised for having to cancel a number of upcoming public engagements. However, the Queen will continue a full programme of public duties. The Duke of Sussex is expected to travel to the UK to see the King within the next few days. Our political editor, Gary Gibbon, has this report.
The King leaving hospital a week ago after 3 nights at the London clinic.
How are you feeling?
A statement tonight from Buckingham Palace said, during the King's recent hospital procedure for benign prostate enlargement, a separate issue of concern was noted. Subsequent diagnostics have identified a form of cancer. His Majesty has today commenced a schedule of regular treatments, during which time he has been advised by doctors to postpone public-facing duties. The King's going to be having treatment as an outpatient. Buckingham Palace wants the exact nature of the King's cancer to remain private, but wanted to announce the fact of cancer to avoid inaccurate speculation and because candour about treatment can encourage early diagnosis. The Queen was asked last Wednesday how the King was doing and said he was getting better. The King and Queen were then seen together emerging from church at Sandringham on Sunday. The King returned to London from Sandringham this morning to begin his treatment. It's not a full year and a half since Charles became monarch, only 9 months since his coronation.
God save the King!
The King's expected to continue to perform his state duties, like signing off appointments and Acts of Parliament, and his weekly conversation with the Prime Minister. The royal family leaving church in Sandringham at Christmas. It's understood that other members of the royal family are not expected to step in as counsellors, substitutes for the King in public duties, as the law allows. No one knows right now if that could become necessary. The King spoke to both his sons about his condition. Prince Harry is believed to be making plans to fly from California to see his father. Prince William had been staying close to Windsor, where his wife, the Princess of Wales, had been recuperating from her own recent operation. Prince of Wales will return to public duties this week.
As the Queen herself did with such unswerving devotion, I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation.
The King speaking to the nation just after the death of Queen Elizabeth, his mother, echoing her pledge to serve as monarch until death. A very public diagnosis will bring that up the public agenda, just as the palace can be expected to give reassurance and optimism about the planned medical treatment. For years now, courtiers in Buckingham Palace and in monarchies around Europe have talked about the phenomenon of the silver monarchy. Our monarchs are getting older and the heirs to the throne when they take over are older themselves. King Charles is 75, he was the longest serving heir to the throne, the oldest monarch to ascend the throne. So issues of illness, ailments are much more likely in an older person, and that was something that the royal family was acutely aware of. But these are issues which I think they can deal with, and the speculation that is going to be around, though, is that they might go down the same route as some of these European monarchies, the abdication route. Buckingham Palace will hate that speculation. They'll also hate, though, the speculation that's bound to circulate around what kind of cancer specifically the king has. It will circulate, it will happen, both those speculations will happen. They will both be hated and quietly put to one side as much as the palace can. Another issue that's going to be around, though, is the whole issue of the slimmed down monarchy. Has the king slimmed it down too much to cope with moments like this? The Prince of Wales, as was said there by Christian, will be stepping up to do some of the king's duties, but he and his wife, who's recuperating for an operation herself, are the only working members of the royal family who are under 50. So has the monarchy perhaps slimmed down too much? That and many other issues will be swirling around for quite some time to come.
Gary Gibbon in Westminster. Well, from 1969 to his mother's death in 2022, Charles was the Prince of Wales. So how has tonight's news been received there and further afield? Our Home Affairs correspondent Andy Davis joins us from Cardiff. Andy.
Yes, plenty of messages of support coming in from leading political figures around the UK. Here in Cardiff, at the Parliament, where the King memorably addressed Senedd members in Welsh on his first visit, having become monarch, we had a statement from the First Minister, Mark Drakeford, who said, "I'm saddened to hear the news that King Charles is facing further health challenges. My thoughts and those of people across Wales who will be with him and his family this evening. I send my very best wishes as he starts treatment for a full and swift recovery." From the Scottish First Minister, similar good wishes this evening. This is what Humza Yousaf had to say a short time ago.
Can I send my thoughts and indeed my prayers to His Majesty the King and wish him well for a full recovery and a return back to public life. And let me also send my very best wishes and my thoughts with Her Majesty the Queen and all the members of the royal family who will be deeply worried at this time. I don't think it matters whether you're a member of the royal family or not. If a family member has cancer, that is always going to be extremely worrying indeed. So I want to send them my very best wishes, not just on behalf of myself personally, the government I lead, but in terms on behalf of the entire nation.
Well, of course, in the last few days, Northern Ireland has a newly appointed First Minister, and Sinn Féin's Michelle O'Neill posted a message to say, "I am very sorry to hear of King Charles's illness, and I want to wish him well for his treatment and a full and speedy recovery." And the Deputy First Minister, the DUP's Emma Little-Pengelly, said, "I would like to wish His Majesty King Charles all the very best for his treatment. I, like many people throughout Northern Ireland, will keep him and his family in my prayers." So a lot of these messages coming through now, a lot of people wishing him well, and also a lot of people commending the King for speaking openly about this subject. Back to you in London.
Andy Davis. Well, the King has been very open about his health situation. So what have been the events leading up to this announcement? Our reporter Amelia Jen is with me.
Well, just over a week ago, King Charles spent 3 nights in hospital receiving treatment for an enlarged prostate. The palace then confirmed that this was a benign, non-cancerous condition. In fact, the medical term is prostatic hyperplasia. He then made his first public appearance since then, just this weekend, going to church in Sandringham in Norfolk with Queen Camilla, waving on his way in. And then, as you say, just over an hour ago, the palace announced that it was during that procedure that a secondary issue of concern was found subsequent diagnostic tests found a form of cancer, not prostate cancer. We don't know what kind, and the palace are of course keen to avoid any speculation. They told us that he'd returned to London today to start a course of treatment. He's been told to take a break from or to postpone his public duties, but he'll still be getting his government red boxes. He'll be doing his official paperwork. The palace said too that the king was grateful to his medical team for their swift intervention, which was made possible thanks to his recent procedure in hospital. It said too that he was feeling wholly positive about treatment, that he hoped it would improve public understanding for all of those around the world who are affected by cancer.
Amelia Jen, thank you. Well, let's go to Jackie now in Leeds.
Thanks, Krish. Well, I'm joined now by cancer specialist Professor David Seabag Montefiore. Thanks very much for coming in to join us. As Amelia was saying, we don't know what type of cancer he is being treated for. We do know that it is not prostate cancer. The Buckingham Palace said that during this procedure, a separate issue of concern was noted. Is that common?
Yes, it is actually quite a common situation today, and becoming more common really due to the sophistication of tests. So when someone such as the king is undergoing a procedure, there's a whole range of tests that would take place. And if a cancer is suspected or abnormal finding is found, then a tissue diagnosis would be needed. So a sample would be taken. And it's really important that that information is used to help decide what the problem is and then decide how best to treat it.
I mean, people are always concerned once the word cancer is raised, but we really, really need to be careful until we have more information. We are told he began treatment as an outpatient and is back home this evening.
So outpatient treatment is very common for cancer. There's a whole range of treatments that will be used, and clearly it's too early at this stage to actually comment on the king's personal condition because it's only just been announced and we don't have sufficient information for that.
It is interesting that the king has been very clear, first of all, with this initial benign prostate issue, to be public, and now with the diagnosis of cancer, to go public once again. Why is that important?
I think raising awareness of cancer is tremendously important, and I think it is fantastic that the king has taken the view that he wants to share this information. And I think it sends out a very positive message around the fact that cancer is no longer a taboo. It's an increasingly common disease. It's increasingly incredibly treatable, particularly when it's diagnosed early. But by making the awareness known to the public, I think that means that people who might have a symptom that they're not sure about will be more inclined to go and seek medical advice. And I can only emphasise how important that is, because the early diagnosis of cancer is really valuable in maximising the chance of successful treatment.
I mean, we know that there was said to be a huge rise in the number of people making Google searches on prostate issues after the king revealed that he was having this corrective procedure. So much honesty has positive consequences, and he's clearly hoping today is the same.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that he's been very public with this, it's also very positive to see a very nice picture of him looking very well. And I think it actually debunks some of the actual myths about cancer, where sometimes people can be incredibly poorly, and we know that is the case. But there are many people who are diagnosed with cancer who are well, who have minimal symptoms, and can have treatments that actually range from a whole gamut of different excellent medical technologies to treat the disease, many of which can be given as an outpatient.
I mean, Buckingham Palace were very, very clear to say today that the king wants to say he remains wholly positive in the hope that it does give hope to people with cancer.
And I think that's an absolutely fantastic statement, and it's tremendous that he's done that. We've just been celebrating World Cancer Day, and the mission of World Cancer Day is to raise awareness. And it is very much the case that I think that's happening around the world at this moment.
Professor David Seabag Montefiore, thanks very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Krishnam.
Thank you, Jackie. Well, Charles Anson was Press Secretary to Queen Elizabeth II for 7 years and joins us now from East Sussex. Thank you very much for joining us. What do you make of this level of openness and candour about the King's condition?
Well, I think it's typical of the King that he wishes his own condition and the publicity around it to be helpful to other people who are suffering from the same thing. I think it's part of his sense of public duty and a sense that in today's world, it's sometimes helpful to be more open and more frank about your health in order to feel better.
Of course, many people live with cancer for a very long time, and families are used to living with this disease close to them, but there will be many people around the country very concerned by this news, and the royal family has had the Princess of Wales in hospital recently as well, and of course the Duke of Sussex is abroad and no longer performing duties. I mean, does this leave the public face of the royal family in Britain a little depleted for now?
I think obviously it's a smaller royal family in this reign, but I think the King is keen to carry on doing his state papers and whatever work that he can do quietly. I think it's not the time for public-facing duties, but he's certainly going to be active and being able to see people and to be in meetings, but he obviously needs to take it calmly. He will be supported by an outstanding medical household, so the King has the support and advice and experience of a medical household that he will have known over the years from both childhood and adulthood. But he is by nature a very fit man. He takes a lot of exercise, he eats well, and has a great deal of support. And I think the support of the Queen, Queen Camilla, his sons and many other members of the royal family will be there to help him as much as they can. And I think the government will have the same sympathetic approach, as will the Commonwealth and many other people around the world.
What's the significance of the fact that there are no councillors of state being appointed for the time being?
Well, I think the Councillor of State mechanism means that senior members of the royal family, particularly those who undertake public duties, the Prince of Wales, the Princess of Wales, and other members of the royal family, are there to help in any way they can. And of course, his family and the Queen will want as much as anybody to see the King restored to good health again and to be under the have the support of the medical team at Buckingham Palace.
And again, just to clarify, constitutionally nothing has changed, has it? The King continues to do his duties, he's just not going to be seen in public duties. He will continue to have his red boxes, he will continue to have his audiences with the Prime Minister.
That's correct, and I think he'll also perhaps see the Privy Council and see others for audiences at Buckingham Palace, but not, I think, public-facing duties for the moment. I mean, the nature of his treatment means that he has to presumably take it quite carefully. But I think the good thing is that he has a fit constitution and he leads a good, active life, and that will help him, one hopes, to get better more quickly with the support of his family and support of the government and many others around the world.
Charles Anson, thank you very much indeed for joining us from East Sussex. The royal historian, Professor Kate Williams, joins me now from North London. What's your reaction to this news?
Well, obviously it's very serious news. We were told that the King was going in for a minor operation, enlarged prostate, that many men suffer from, and he was talking about it to raise awareness. And now, obviously, we learn that something was discovered while he was there in the tests. And so now he is going to be having this outpatient treatment. But I think he's been very careful here to be transparent and say, look, I'm still doing my work. There's no need for councillors of state. I'm still going to do my work at home, but you won't see me in public facing duties for some time. We also won't see Kate until at least after Easter. So really, although we are not using the councillors of state, we are seeing William really going to be stepping into being the main face of the royal family for at least, I think, the next 3, if not more, months.
I mean, it's clear that the machinery of the royal family has sort of swung into action, and this news has been announced as smoothly and as calmly as possible. But let's be clear, I mean, for many people in the country, this is a shock. And it's clear that this news itself was a shock to the king because it was only discovered during his treatment for the enlarged prostate.
Yes, as you say, Christian, it was only discovered then. It obviously wasn't something that he was having symptoms about before. And it is, it's always a shock when someone receives a diagnosis like this. The king, they've said in their statement that they want to avoid speculation. That's why they've been so transparent and said it is a cancer diagnosis, not prostate cancer, but a different cancer. But they've also said they want to think about people who have cancer all over the world. About 1 in 2 of us will get cancer eventually. It's a tough and brutal disease. It's one from which many people recover and live a fantastic life afterwards. But it is a hard diagnosis to receive, and it is a shock. And it's interesting, isn't it, that the Queen Camilla, was at actually opening a cancer centre, Maggie's Cancer Centre, on Thursday, and she said that the King was doing his best. And I think already then they were already thinking about how can we work with this, because this is going to be an unprecedented situation. Of course, the Queen's father, George VI, kept it totally secret that he had lung cancer. There was an operating theatre at Buckingham Palace. No one knew. In fact, the Queen herself, when she was Princess Elizabeth, she wasn't aware of how ill he was, and that's why she was in Kenya when she realised she'd become Queen. It was such a shock to everyone. And the Queen, we were told that she was going in for tests. We didn't really know what it was that the Queen may have been ill with or may not. But with Charles, I think he's being very clear, and I do probably expect that perhaps in a period of time that he may tell us what cancer it is that he has been diagnosed with. It may be that he does an event with the charity connected with it or similar. But I think that they are really aiming for transparency here, to be clear, to say this is a surprising diagnosis. It's worrying for everyone. But on one hand, I want to really sort of be there for all the other people who have cancer diagnoses across the world, and also to say that I am still the King. There's no need for councillors of state. There's no need for William or Anne or Edward or any of the councillors of state to step in. I am still the King, but I just won't be doing outside duties.
And what does this mean for the other senior royals, bearing in mind that Prince William is also caring for his wife, who has recently been in hospital?
Well, Prince William was expected to be caring for Kate for a much longer period. I think we were expecting not to see him for a while, but now he's returning to duties immediately because he is now needed, because there are many duties that need to be stepped in for. Of course, many will be postponed, but there are also things such as giving out honours that we do need to have a royal stepping in there for it. And of course, we have quite a small royal family at the moment. We have a royal family in which Kate is out of action, in which Harry, we understand, he's talked to King Charles, he's coming over, but we haven't heard whether he's coming over to step into duties. That may not be the case. So we don't have many royals to step in. We have Anne, we have Edward, and we have William, and we have Queen Camilla. But really, it is a royal family in which the Queen had a great big firm, and now it's a smaller royal family. So it does mean that William, I think, is going to have a lot of his duties, plus looking after his wife, plus also stepping in for the King informally. And certainly we're going to see a lot of William, I think, over the next few months in all the different ways. And certainly constitutionally, the King is working from home. But I think in terms of the public face of the monarchy, it will be William. And the first major state visit we have planned is later on in the year, in the late spring, to Canada. Hopefully the King will be well enough to conduct that, but if not, perhaps that will be one that will be stepped into by William and perhaps Kate by his side.
Well, I mean, slimming down the senior royals was really part of the King's modernisation, and you wonder whether they might rethink that.
It is an interesting question, isn't it? The Queen very much wanted to expand the royal firm, as she called it. There are many extra royals. They were brought in because of this large amount of work that she wanted to develop with her travelling so much and the Commonwealth activities. And the King himself has wanted very clearly to move towards a slimmed down monarchy, and some of that has been of absolute necessity. For example, Prince Andrew is no longer required to be with the royal family. He simply cannot be. So it is much smaller. And of course, we have a situation when the Queen had 4 children and Charles had 2 children. So it is a smaller royal family by that degree. The children of William are far too young to be doing any royal duties. So although a slim down royal family has been quite popular as a choice of Charles, this is a moment when we actually see it as what the simple sort of effect of it is that when the King is out of action, when the Princess of Wales is out of action, a lot of it falls on the shoulders of William.
And having pointed out the difference in the way the royal family is being very candid about the King's health, will there be a question about whether that works? You know, when you explain quite a lot, it always reveals more questions as well, doesn't it?
Well, this is true. It's a new strategy from the royal family. We are being told very clearly, and I actually do expect that possibly we will be told, perhaps in a year or so, perhaps via the medium of a charity or organisation concerned with this particular cancer, that Charles will say what it is that he has been suffering from. So we are seeing a new level of transparency. I was just saying, George VI, we weren't told a thing. And the Queen also, we weren't really given many indications that right until the final moment. I think Charles is a different type of monarch. He wants to be transparent, but also he knows that people worry, and they worry with an older monarch on the throne. He wants to stop people panicking. He wants to stop any sort of concern. But of course, as soon as you say one thing, people are asking another thing, and people are saying, well, yes, they've told us he has cancer, but what kind of cancer and what could it be? And the thing is that with the Princess of Wales, she is not head of state. She has the right to keep her diagnosis private. We do not need to know it. She's not head of state. It's different when you're head of state. There is this concern about how long will he be out of action? Will the treatment be debilitating, his outpatient treatment? Will he be able to do state visits? Will he be able to open Parliament? All these questions, I think, is what people are going to be asking. And certainly, this has always been the question that the royal family have been wrestling with throughout the 20th century, ever since the coronation was televised by the Queen. How much do you let the television cameras in? How much do you say? How much do you answer questions? You can't go back to the old days in which they never said anything and everyone pretended, for example, that George III was totally fine rather than suffering from extreme mental instability. You can't go back to those days, but how much do you say? And it's also a time in which it's very hard to keep secrets. That people, news leaks out, things can be found out. And so I think that if Charles does want to keep this totally secret and not say what it is, I think it will be difficult because things do often get leaked. And this is the simple fact of living in this social media 24-hour news world.
Kate Williams, thank you very much.